Hey guys, welcome back to Studio Time. Today we're going to be checking out this D510R from Harrison Audio. Harrison sent this over so we could check it out. They call this an ultra flexible 500 series rack. So when you first open this up, it looks like a typical 500 series rack. You've got 10 slots for whatever equipment that you want to put in there. And then you have on the back power, and then of course your standard XLR male and female connections should get in and out of the rack. The rack itself goes for $9.99, and you would typically use this for loading up some outboard EQs and compressors to be able to do either mixing or recording out of the box in like a hybrid studio setup. We do that here in my studio, where I use the EQs in the rack as an insert. Using the rack like this allows me to get in and out of the EQs that I want to mix with, but staying inside of my DAW. So what makes this 500 rack ultra flexible? Let's find out. So what's cool is not only can this hold up to 10 slots of whatever 500 equipment you put in it, but you can also expand the rack on the rear of it by purchasing additional interface expansions for the rack. They sell 3 different interface expansions that you can add to the rack. 2 of them connect at the rear of the 500 rack. Here we have the D510UA expansion interface, which is essentially a USB ADAT expansion or interface that you can connect to the 500 rack with. They also offer a Dante expansion interface card that you can put in the back. Then they also offer a mixer module for the front, which gives you 10 in and 2 outs that you can use for summing or mixing purposes. So if you're using something like this for an on-the-go portable studio interface, that could be a really valuable card to get for it. So for my setup specifically, I just go directly in and out via XLR, and I send out from my session 2 outputs and return back to the same consecutive inputs that I'm coming out of, and I can use whatever equipment's in here as an insert. These MR3s are pretty cool. They sent these with the rack, and something unique about these as opposed to my other EQs is they have a high pass filter, so we can start by rolling off some of that low frequency. That is how I would use this 500 rack for a standard hybrid setup if it's connected analog via XLR in and out. But there's another pretty interesting way that we can connect to this using the digital connection USB ADAT card. So let's give that a try and see how it works. Okay, so the other way you can connect this, which is the most interesting part to me, is digitally. So check this out. On the back, you can swap out what normally comes on this box with this digital USB ADAT interface card. They also have a Dante version of it. You basically just remove these screws on the panel, pull the panel off, and then you take this digital card, whichever one you opt for, and then you can install the digital card into the rear of the unit here and screw it back in. Now, the most interesting way to use this digital card to me is via USB. Check this out. So you can essentially fill up your rack with hardware. Let's say we're gonna do some hybrid mixing. We're gonna insert some 500 series modules across our mix. We can connect to this 500 series box exclusively with a USB cable and no analog connections, and without the ADAT connections, just one USB cable and of course your power cable. So we're gonna flip this around, and since we're going to use the digital connections on this, each channel of modules here has a little blue switch on it that you can press up. When your switches are not engaged, they default to your analog or XLR connections. If you wanna use digital, then you just press the switch of the slot up, and that flips the slots into digital mode. This is gonna allow the signal to actually come into the channels digitally rather than XLR. All right, so we've switched all of our slots to digital. I've put some EQ modules in here. These are 611 EQs, and then we have some Harrisons. These are the MR3 EQs. I mentioned before, what's cool with the MR3s is they have the high pass filters, but they also have a little LED indicator for when they're getting input signal, which is honestly pretty helpful when you're testing signal routing with gear, that you have some sort of indication that it's getting signal. Now, this is gonna be quite hilarious, but we're going to connect our 500 series rack to the computer so that we can use it for inserts. And so let me show you how to do that, and get your notepad out. This is gonna be complicated. This is our power cable, okay? We're gonna plug that in correctly. Power. Now, to connect our digital signal, we're gonna connect a USB cable, and we're ready to mix. Okay, so we're connecting this via USB. So all the ins and outs to this are just gonna go through that USB cable some magic way, right? Now our outputs that we're monitoring through their speakers and headphones are not on this, obviously, because there's no connections to the speakers. So we're going to set up an aggregate device. I'm gonna be showing you how to do this setup in Pro Tools, and I promise you it's gonna be worth it. In the computer, first thing we're doing is we're going to our audio MIDI setup window, and we are setting up Pro Tools Aggregate IO. Again, if you're not in Pro Tools, maybe you have a different way of doing this. I'm in Pro Tools, so it is what it is. I'm setting up my playback audio interface, which is over here. This is just a 2-channel in and out interface. That is the first device in our aggregate. For whatever reason, it's showing up as device name. And then our D510 is the second interface. So you can see the two here correlate with the input and output numbers that can be connected to it. So once we open Pro Tools and we set our playback engine setup thing as Pro Tools Aggregate, this is going to be our connections in and out. So this is set up. We're gonna jump over to Pro Tools. I'll show you in our setup window, we have it selected as Pro Tools Aggregate IO, and this is our other settings, doesn't really matter. And then we're gonna go in the IO menu so you can see this. All right, so here's our Pro Tools Aggregate setup. Okay, so our inputs and outputs are as follows. You can see that we have the D510 UA kind of shows up on this side over here, but since we're on our aggregate IO, all of our actual routing to it is as it shows up here. So 3 and 4 are the beginning of our inputs and outputs. So just slide all of our D510 UA over here. And then really where it matters, since we're using hardware inserts, is that these are lined up on the actual Pro Tools Aggregate in the insert tab. Now I only made 8 because we have 6. I don't know why I have 8. So this is correlating these sends to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on here. And then we hit OK. Now, in theory, we should get playback. When you say you won't. So we're getting output from our device, our main playback interface. And now we should be able to go and insert some of these EQs. So let's do that. Let's pick something here. Let's do the master bus right off the bat. Let's just put it on the master bus. I'm gonna pick a pair of EQs. Let's do channels 1, 2, which are SSL. We should just be able to click it. And then, yeah, let's leave them off. So we'll check if we get playback. When you say. Okay, and now I'm going to engage them and start turning some knobbies, and we'll hear how it sounds. When you say you won't make the same mistakes, I believe in you. When you tell me you're ready to be the woman I need, I believe in you. You say you'll erase. Beautiful. So just to recap, we are using hardware inserts with a USB cable. Let's play with these guitars. Yeah, let's go to this part. Okay, we'll insert on here. Let's do the Harrisons. 5 and 6. I will engage them. Also, pro tip, don't EQ in solo. Even Santa Claus, oh, beautiful. That's very subtle on the guitars because these are actually room mics. I mic'd the guitars not close. Very subtle. So there you have it. We've got some EQs on our mix bus, our acoustic, our electric guitars, all connected with a simple USB cable, and of course our host interface, which is just connected to our speaker so we can actually hear it. But we're doing hybrid mixing in the most, as far as cables is concerned, cost-effective way to go about it. Pretty freaking cool. So if you want to check out this rack, I'll put a link to it as well as the card and some EQs that I'm using here if you're interested, down in the description. I want to thank Harrison for sending this, sponsoring this video. This is a pretty cool freaking thing. Let me know what you think down in the description. Hit the like button, subscribe for more, and we'll see you in the next one.